Well, it's all about fear and food in this week's Paper Plus book review. Kerry Woodham joins me now from Auckland. Did you get a chance to say hi to Nicholas Sparks when you swapped seats?
I did. Gosh, what an overachiever he is, my word.
Isn't he amazing? He has just achieved so much, and he said he still hasn't achieved what he wants to achieve. So that's probably why he does so well, having such a big, such a high goal in his life. Let's get
so young.
I know.
I couldn't get over that.
Well, he wrote the note. He was 28 when he wrote the Notebook. Anyway, I digress because we're going to get to our three books that you've got. The first, The Fear Index by Robert Harris. All I can think about is coffee.
Me
Robert
too.
Harris.
I had to double check the author's name because I was so convinced I'd confused it with the coffee. This is a really good thriller. Basically, Dr. Alex Hoffman is a physicist who sets up a hedge fund and he wants to develop a computer that can predict the way the markets will react, which means he can stay one step ahead of the game, looking after his customers who invest billions rather than millions. So far, so realistic. He creates a program called I think it's the Vixel 4. I can't remember because it was all very, technology, Vixel 4. And what the machine does is predicts fear, because that is what makes people behave in uncertain and unstable ways. As it predicts fear, it then, as it reads the responses to the world, to the communities, it adapts its thinking. So the machine starts to take on a life of its own. And Dr. Alex Hoffman, the creator of this machine, suddenly finds himself a victim in his own life of the most bizarre circumstances, and it's a really good thriller in setting up uncertainty. You have no idea what's happening to Dr. Hoffman. You have no idea what the machine's going to do. Ultimately, when you set up a scenario as good as this, the ending has to be truly triumphant and extraordinary, and I think it missed the mark a little. It was more an A- than an A+, but I still think it's well worth reading because it's a classic thriller. And very topical right now with the markets and instability and what have you.
And fear, interesting, the whole thing about fear too. You're thinking about looking at the debate last night with the two leaders. The nerves, and how it affected their performance at the beginning of the debate was really interesting. Fear, maybe.
And also the way, if you've seen the documentaries, Michael Moore, he says that that's how politicians operate, by generating fear in a community and making them, fearful of living within their own neighbourhoods and thus depending on politicians for answers. So, yeah, it's a really good topical read.
Fascinating stuff. Now, on to something dear to our heart, because we have her son in the Good Morning Kitchen today, a homegrown cook by Alison Holst with Barbara Larson. So does that mean that Barbara wrote it, or was it edited by Barbara? How does that work?
Usually you'll have a series of interviews, so Barbara would have sat down. I don't know in this case, but I do know that Paul Little, who's probably the go-to biographer in this country, will do a series of interviews. So you get the person's own voice, and then they shape that into a readable memoir.
Right.
And it's lovely. It's just like Alison. I mean, reading it, you just... here's a thoroughly warm, decent, capable woman, but also one with the most extraordinary work ethic. Here she was, a mother of two small children, the wife of a very good doctor, and one with a very consuming career, at the same time building an empire in her own kitchen. I mean, she writes about the early days when people used to use whitebait as manure because it was so plentiful for the garden, which made me want to cry. I know. And she talks about the early days of television, which is just fascinating, especially for somebody who's worked in television. She talks about going overseas and juggling family and new beginnings and trying to find a place for herself. You don't get her innermost thoughts and fears. I'm sure there would have been times she would have flung herself on a hotel bed somewhere in Midwest America sobbing because she missed the kids so much or was just so tired. But you don't get that. But then she's not that sort of woman. I get the sense that she's not one of those febrile souls that are going to throw themselves about the place sighing and sobbing and saying it's all too much. I mean, she's just a keep calm and carry on type of girl, and that's what the memoir's like. A couple of times I'm left hanging where she said, of course I couldn't enjoy the champagne at El Casino to celebrate the success of the book because I had surgery the next day. 3 months later I found myself and I'm like, what surgery? How serious was it? But she's not that she gives away a lot, but she also holds back as well, and I guess that's the sort of person she is. So it stays true to Dame Alison.
Oh, I definitely want to read that, and especially
Yeah, it's
because
really good.
We've had Simon on the show here on Good Morning for so long, and Alison on as well regularly. Beat till stiff. Only Peter Mathias would choose a title like that, wouldn't she?
And it gives you a very clear indication of what you're going to read, as opposed to Dame Alison, a cook who gives nothing away. Peter lets it all hang out, and it's a very entertaining read because of that. I mean, she's a great writer. I mean, goodness, she's prolific. I mean, not as prolific as Dame Alison is. I think this is her 100th book, the memoir.
Yes.
But she, Peter writes very entertaining sort of commentaries on life, really, and what it is to be a woman in your later years. I'm not going to say which decade, and to be an independent, stroppy, strong, competent, capable woman. She talks about her love affairs. She talks about her, complicated relationship with her mother. She talks about having red hair. She talks about sacred cows. I think she may even drop the C word, just a warning.
Oh my goodness, so not for the faint-hearted, that one.
No, I mean, you do have to be open-minded to read it, and you'll get a lot out of it if you are. And it's just more witty, funny, brazen, the nuns would have called it brazen, commentary on life, and it really is a very entertaining read.
I do love Peter's books.
Can I just say before we go on,
Yes.
I know I'm looking very casual, but these T-shirts have been put out by Verge, who are great supporters of Paper Plus's Books and Bubbles, and they're also supporting Shine, Safer Homes in New Zealand every day. So $50 wherever Verge clothing is sold, and it goes to help prevent domestic violence, and it's a really good cause, and they're really nice T-shirts because they're, how sometimes those
They're too
charity
high.
T-shirts cut you off like a turtle. I know, they're just awful, and these are tailored at the back, and they're for 50 good quality cotton, so good cause and great T-shirts, and you're not going to look like a turtle if you wear them.
I actually have to say I think you look pretty hot in that T-shirt, particularly when you
Really?
stood up, so I might get myself one because I think we've got similar
okay.
figures.
Yes, because it's nicely tailored at the back, and I can't. Can I show you? I'm going to get myself. Anyway, you probably don't need to see my bum, do you?
It looks very nice. Thank you
too
very
much.
much, Kerry, and thank you very much for chatting with us today about the 3 books.
Thank you.
And this week's Paper Plus book review giveaway is The Fear Index, which was the first book Kerry reviewed today by Robert Harris, not the coffee maker. To be in to win, just name the book's main character. You can enter online or at the address that you can see up there on screen.